call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Sykesville Mayor and Town Council meeting. Today is Monday, January 9th, 2023. We will call the meeting, I guess it's the first meeting of the year, at precisely 7:04, according to this particular device, p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence. Okay, thanks everyone. I'd like to announce that this meeting is also being streamed live to the Carroll Media Center's YouTube channel as well as the town's Facebook page, and will be available for playback on both of those platforms. So first we'll begin with public comments. We begin every meeting with public comments, or the opportunity therefore. Is there anyone signed up to see this? Okay. Then I won't go through the rendition about how long we have for public comments. My first public comment is that it's National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Hence the town council and myself are decked out in blue. I'm impressed. And we do that in appreciation and in honor of our Sykesville Police Department. And no, thank you. And I'm just going to take a moment. And if anyone wants to chime in, I will be speaking on behalf of all of us because I know we all feel this way. Also, I want to speak on behalf of the community in appreciation and great thanks to Chief and Lieutenants out here, but to our entire police department. And as I mentioned today on my Facebook page, not much of what we do here on a monthly, bi-monthly basis as town council really matters without a police department rooted in community. So on behalf of the community, thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
And I think that our Chief of Police, Chief Spaulding, has an announcement of his own, introduction of sorts.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm very pleased to introduce you to our newest officer after quite an extensive search and weeding through a lot of the applicants that we didn't feel met our criteria and our standards. We're fortunate to find Andrew Jacobs. Why don't you come on up, Andrew?
All right, Andrew.
He was proven to be quite a unique individual. Let me tell you a little bit about Andrew. He spent 8 years with the Montgomery County Police Department, and then I say wisely decided to move from the police department to the fire department, which is quite a trend nowadays. Unfortunately, a lot of officers leaving police and going into the fire service. Nobody ever gets mad when the fire department shows up, right?
No.
So he's been there for a year, and according to him, he just missed police work. And so what he was looking for was a good fit for his schedule with the fire department and working with a local, he was primarily interested in a municipal small police department. And he found us, and he looked at us as well as a couple other municipalities here in Carroll County, and wisely decided to come with us. And now he put a lot of thought and effort into it and did a lot of research. In fact, he told me just today that he actually watched every previously recorded mayor and town council meeting back to 2015.
Oh, wow. God bless you.
Talk about research. How the heck did you stay awake?
I'm pretty familiar. I can help run this meeting.
Did you see any trend analysis?
Not only that, he's already gone online and reviewed our policies in advance. So this kind of speaks to his nature. He brings a tremendous amount of skills. Of course, being a firefighter, he's a tactical medic, which is certainly a valuable resource for us to have here in town. He spent a lot of time doing investigations, drug investigations, part of what they call the community action team in Montgomery County. I can go on and on. He's a pilot. He's a farmer. I mean, the guy is extremely unique and very valuable, and we're very lucky to have him. And I'm very thankful that he chose us to be his home, hopefully here for many years to come. And we're looking forward to big things from him. So
we'll be asking for the plane next year.
Yes.
Perfect.
For
just
travel and expeditions and things of that nature, yeah. So,
you get to swear in the show.
Mayor, if you wouldn't mind,
yes.
We'd like you to officially swear him in. I'll give you this document so that you can read from.
Thank you.
We'll make everything official, and I think he'll actually be starting. We need to have a seat right here. actually be starting later this week, I believe Thursday.
Okay, all set?
Absolutely.
All right, if you can raise your right hand, please. We'll take the oath of office. I, Andrew S. Jacobs,
I, Andrew S. Jacobs,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice,
diligently and faithfully without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of police officer
execute the office of police officer
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
That does it. Thank you so much.
Craig, we'll have him meet with you maybe Wednesday? Thursday afternoon?
Yeah,
So we'll work that out.
Yeah, we can work that out via email. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Fire department shift.
Joe, that's your pen. That's your easy.
Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay.
That's good news. Real good news. Yeah.
Perfect, or they say fortuitous timing, right? On a lead law enforcement appreciation day. Okay, next, and I guess the first actual written item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from December 12th, 2022.
Motion to approve the minutes of December 12th, 2022.
Thank you, Councilman Grassley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Council President Carter, seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes.
Abstain.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's true.
Would you like to let us know?
The
why?
reason that I abstain is I just haven't had a chance to look at the playback yet. I looked at the minutes, but I haven't looked at the playback
That's right.
to be able to make sure that they're all there.
Okay, thank you. And you
Thanks.
were absent, obviously, for that meeting. I should have
Yep.
announced that. Thank you. Okay, so with a unanimous vote with one abstention, the minutes from December 12th, 2022 are passed. Next item, we've been long awaiting the presentation by our auditor, Eva Webb. Please
Very exciting.
come to the microphone. Thank you.
She didn't want to come to the podium, so.
I know,
Going
the
out of the way.
podium makes me nervous.
No, don't be nervous.
All right, so you guys have the audit in front of you, and I'm just gonna walk you guys through it at a pretty high level. Feel free to interrupt if you have any questions as we go through it. So if you can go to the first page after the table of contents, right at the top, it says Independent Auditors Report. So I always like to pause here, and as Mark alluded to earlier, opinions is what you pay us for, right? So you pay the accounting firm for the audit opinion. So you'll see in that second paragraph, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. So what that means is the town has a clean audit for fiscal year 22. I know. Down the second paragraph from the bottom where it says responsibilities of management for the financial statements, I do like to remind councils, these are your financial statements and management is responsible for preparing those, and all we do is express an opinion on them. The second page of the audit opinion, if you flip to the next page, this is all new. If you looked at last year's, the officer might have looked at last year's if he were still here. Sounds like he did his due diligence. It didn't have this section at all. So this is new in the current year. Not that the procedures that it outlines here in those bullet points are new, just that we report it to you all. So on the first bullet point, you see exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism. I like to pause there and just remind you all, that's why you hire an independent CPA, right? I mean, management, Craig does a great job, but they give you their internal financial statements. You want an outside opinion on them. Identify and assess the risks. Again, this is not new. We've always done it, but we are outlining it here so that you guys kind of get a big picture of what we do. Obtain an understanding of internal control. Evaluate the accounting policies used. And then the last bullet point there, conclude whether, in our judgment, you guys will be in business in 12 months. So you'll see the next page if you want to flip. We did finally complete the audit in December of 2022. Everything was submitted to the state of Maryland, and so today we're just going through everything with you. The next section of the audited financial statements are what's known as management's discussion and analysis. We're going to skip through all of that. Craig works really hard on it, and we're not going to talk about it at all. It really is just a summary of the information in the financial statements, so we're going to skip on through that. So if you guys can go past all the numbered pages, past 14 to Exhibit A1. All right, so this is the statement of net position, and if you're familiar with a balance sheet, essentially that's what this is. It's just titled differently for municipalities. So you'll see the top half are our assets, and it's broken down into current and non-current assets. So you'll see at the top your cash and cash equivalents. You have cash with escrow agents, certificates of deposit. You guys have about 84% of your total current assets in cash and cash equivalents. So you're very liquid. The remainder, non-current assets, are your property and equipment. You have about $7.8 million of property and equipment net of depreciation. The second half of this statement are your liabilities. All organizations have liabilities. So you guys have current liabilities of about $381,000, and that includes your payables, your accruals, your accrued compensated absences, accrued vacation, that kind of stuff. You also have some long-term liabilities, including your net pension liability, which is that state retirement, of about $854,000. So your total liabilities at June 30 were $1,323,000. So you take your total assets and deferred outflows, and you subtract your total liabilities and deferred inflows, and what that leaves you is that very large number at the bottom, your net position. So you guys have $13,846,000. And you'll see there's a couple categories there. You do have some restricted funds, some restricted fund balances that have to be used for specific purposes, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Any questions on that? All right. Exhibit A2. This is your income statement. So about 20 years ago, they implemented this statement, and it caused an uproar because usually you start with revenues and then you subtract your expenses. This statement does exactly the opposite. So your column on the left shows all of the expenses of the town by category. So the categories for you guys are general government, public safety, public works, those types of things. So the town expenses for fiscal year 22 were a little over $4.2 million. And so what I really have come to like about this statement is then it shows you how you pay for those expenses. So you have the first column, charges for services. The second column, you of course get some operating grants and general contributions. And then that third column, capital grants and contributions. And so that fourth column shows you that you don't charge enough or get enough operating grants to pay for your expenses. So what you do is you levy taxes. So down there at the bottom, you have the income taxes, the real estate taxes, some other impact fees, and some miscellaneous revenues. And so you'll see those came in at about almost $3.3 million last year. So we take our expenses and we subtract all of our revenues, and it shows that we had a loss last year of about $266,000. We add that to our beginning of the year net position, and that's how we end the year with that $13,845,000. Okay? All right. So, Mark, as we were talking earlier, you also have a second set of financial statements, just because life wasn't complicated enough for elected officials. So you have Exhibit A3 and A4, which are the fund level financial statements. So this is how you budget. So it doesn't include capital assets because you guys treat them as expenditures when you purchase them for budgeting purposes. It also doesn't include that net pension liability because that's a long-term liability. So you'll see when we take out those items, your total assets are less, right, by the capital asset amounts, about 8.4 million. And your liabilities are less, and so your fund balance is less as well. The same thing if you go to Exhibit A4, you're only going to see those revenues and expenses similar to how you budget. So here on a fund level, you had net income, that third number from the bottom where it says excess of revenues over expenditures of about $393,000. And we will get to that in a little more detail when we go over the budget. So the next 26 pages are the notes to the financial statements. And I will not bore you by going through all of them, but I thought there were a couple that I think are important enough to talk about. So if you go to page 9, you do have deposits and certificates of deposit, demand deposits. This sort of just gives you, page 9 sort of just outlines all of the cash equivalents. And then at the very bottom, if you remember, I mentioned you do have some restricted cash. And so this outlines exactly what that cash can be spent for. And you'll see, it's not news to any of you, the largest line item is the ARPA funding, about $1.5 million. The next one I wanted to go over was, let's see, page 12. As I mentioned, your capital assets are $7.8 million, if we're rounding. This gives you a general overview of the different categories of capital assets, how much they've been depreciated, and just sort of, buildings, equipment, infrastructure, vehicles. It's a good sort of one-pager there. Page 14, right in the middle, shows the restricted fund balance. So as I mentioned, you also have net assets or fund balance that have been restricted for certain reasons. You'll see here some of the funding comes in for Gatehouse specifically, the Warfield Complex, and the public project funds. And then on the very next page, you have your assigned fund balance. And so this is part of what you guys approve when you're doing the budget for the following fiscal year. These are some of the expenditures that you've approved in advance. The very bottom of that page, just a reminder, you do have the $1 million stabilization reserve amount. So that hasn't changed. You guys are still in compliance with that. Page 19, I swear I'm almost done, Mark. Hang in there with me. The pension plan, so I do want to point out, because the state retirement is a very large expenditure of the town and the liability is very large. So it starts on page 19 and it goes for several pages. If you go to page 23, you'll see your town, you actually are in 2 of the state retirement plans because you're in the law enforcement, the LEOPS, as well as the regular state retirement plan. So down there at the bottom, you'll see the current liability is about $854,000 for the 2 plans, that little chart. And then your payments for the current year are there at the bottom. The next page, page 24, has some important information about the ARPA funding. So just as a reminder, you did receive 1 payment in fiscal year 21, and the second payment was received in fiscal year 22. So it was a subsequent transaction, a little over $3.1 million. Just a little bit of money. Exhibit B1 is the next schedule I want to talk about. So this is just your budget. It's your original budget, and then the second column is your final budget. The third column is the actual amounts, and then the fourth column is the variances, whether positive or negative. So from a very high level, your revenues, your final budget was $3.4 million, and you received a little over $4 million. So you were to the good, about $569,000. Your expenditures, about $3.6 million, almost $3.7 million. And your expenditures came in a little bit less at $3,653. So to the good in both ways. More revenue, less expenses.
I'm sure we'll do something about that for next year.
sometimes you plan on purpose to use some funds, but in the current year. The last two schedules, B3 and B4, are just more information about those state retirement plans. These are required by the state. So you'll see, and I had to kind of refresh my memory, that first line, the percentage that's 0.0057, that's your share of the entire state retirement plan liability. And then your current net liability is that $854,000, and so your percentage is 64% of your covered payroll. And the last schedule B4 just shows that you guys made all of your current contractually required contributions. So it was $140,000 in fiscal year 22. It's nice because this schedule is really nice because it gives you the trends over the year, how much, over the years since you guys went into the plan, how much your contribution is as a portion of the covered payroll. I know. 60 pages in 15 minutes.
Genius.
I did have one question,
Of course.
and it goes back to Schedule B3, and maybe I missed it. The top line, as you pointed out, that's our portion. I expected the number to rise because inflation is, but the percentage rising surprised me. Do you know why that is? I'm sure the state made us that happen.
Towns come and go out of the state retirement plan, so maybe somebody pulled their funding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would have imagined, you're right, I would have imagined it have gone down, not up. I can check on that for you.
I am curious as to, like I said, the numbers will rise because that's how inflation works. But I
Right.
kind of expected the percentage to stay roughly the same, and the numbers down here to get bigger.
Yeah, actually, you're trending up if you look at it from 15 all the way to 22. But yeah, I can check on that for you.
Well, I mean, our staff
Staff
is
is
greater as
increasing.
well. So that's why it's trending up, but, and between 21 and 22, it's like slightly larger as well. So that might be part of it, but.
So maybe I'm
agreed that-
misinterpreting the number. Is it, I thought this is what the state was demanding. Are you saying that's
That's our percentage.
our percentage? So as we grow, it
Yes.
grows.
Yeah.
Then that would explain it.
Yes.
It's the percentage of our participation in the overall state's participation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause, I
I
mean,
knew
you're-
that like a tax percentage. Why would that rise? Now, yes, as we added people, that would rise.
Because
Okay,
your
never mind.
covered employee payroll from 21 to 22
Well,
increased over 300,000.
We by necessity have had to grow, and that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
No.
I mean, I wouldn't get all red if you didn't make me stand.
Well, we appreciate the thoroughness and all at once coinciding with the succinctness of it all, so thank you.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, team, we're set then?
Yep.
We'll move on to our unfinished business. Thank you so very much, Eva. Have a safe trip home. Our next item of business is unfinished business. It is a public hearing to consider, discuss, and act on the adoption of ordinance number 2022. This is a carryover from last year, -09, an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Sykesville amending Chapter 129, solid waste, of the Code of the Town of Sykesville to update the allowable size of trash cans and recycled containers. And a brief summary is that ordinance number 2022-09 will amend the Sykesville Code to accommodate the new trash receptacles that were recently distributed. I guess not so recently. It's been 6 months now. I think it was summertime. And so we knew we were out of compliance when we provided these very large cans when our code indicated a maximum of 32, I believe, gallons, and these are closer to 90. So we were gently reminded about this a couple times, and we have acted accordingly, if you're listening, Christopher. And the information here is the town purchased new trash and recycling receptacles for all residents served by the town's Public Works Department. These receptacles were known to be out of compliance with the town code when purchased, and that an update would be necessary after the distribution occurred. Only the amendments to the town code that are needed to bring these new receptacles into compliance are reflected in the ordinance this evening. Before calling for a motion to open the public hearing, just a little update. I simply want to note that only minor modifications were discussed on 12/22 at the time when we introduced the ordinance. And those minor changes are reflected in this evening's version by either an underscore or a strike through, just for anyone that's following along. So at this point, oh wait, and one other thing, I want to mention for the edification of the public, all proposed ordinances are posted in their draft form prior to their introduction on our website. And because we always have a public hearing with all ordinances, it's important that anyone that wants to come and provide input or comment have an opportunity to review that documentation ahead of time, and so that's where it can be found. So now we would call for a motion.
A motion to open the public hearing?
Thank you. Councilman Grassley.
Second.
Second, Councilman Schofield. All in favor of opening the public hearing for ordinance number 22?
Aye.
2209. Oh, you guys are just like really pushing the time here. Okay, so any opposed for opening the public hearing? Okay, so public hearing opens at 7:28. There are few members in the gallery. Are any of them here prepared or willing or wanting to comment on the proposed ordinance? No. Okay, so that means,
Motion to close the public hearing?
thank you, Councilman Grassley.
Second.
And we'll do the same, okay, Councilman Dyer seconds the closing of the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And if I wait 10 seconds, there it is. At 7:29, we close the public hearing. All right, so that brings us to any comments, concerns, or questions, any reason for debate of any kind about this ordinance as it's drafted.
So I just have one question, and I think, Joe, you're going to answer it by saying what I think you're going to say. But at the end of the cul-de-sac for Oklahoma Ave, we have lots of these bins that a lot of the residents on Harmon have brought down, and then some of, like I brought down and my neighbors brought down, and we kind of leave them there. And we're working on a plan to change that by having a dumpster in place of one of these or some other sort of bin system. Will that have any impact on the way that this plays itself out?
It will not. So again, depending on exactly what solution is determined for the end of Oklahoma, again, the dumpster idea is just simply one of them. But obviously there would be an enclosure for that, so it would be shielded from public use, and only the people that are there at the end of Oklahoma would be using that. So again, all the cans would then go away.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if there's another place in the community that needs this sort of thing. I know it's a need there, but I don't know, and I don't know if any of the council members know of any other place.
Really, anytime there's, I think they call them use in common driveways, where there's lots of residences off of that use in common driveway, you have this type of situation where there's a lot of cans at the end. I know at the end of Harmon is probably the I guess the most used use in common driveway. It did bring up something. I know there's potentially going to be a development off of Schoolhouse Road that would be a use in common driveway for, I want to say it was 5 lots, 3 or 5 lots. One of the requirements that we are asking of that development is that they do plan for this type of scenario, so that they actually build a structure as part of the development rather than us having to fix it secondary.
Okay, always like some foresight. Any other questions or comments for staff? So I'm looking for a motion for, presume approval to adopt ordinance number 2022-09.
So moved.
Okay.
What you want to do?
I'm good, second.
All right. So that motion is firsted or made by Councilman Grassley and seconded by Councilmember Guroff. And that ordinance number 2209, an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Sykesville amending Chapter 129, solid waste of the Code of the Town of Sykesville to update the allowable size of trash and recycle containers is the motion on the table. Any need for further debate? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I believe that's everyone. Anyone opposed? Okay, great. So ordinance number 22-09 is approved and adopted unanimously. And that brings us to our first item of, and only item of new business, which is to consider, discuss, act on resolution number 2023-01, amending the reservation fee schedule for park pavilions and the tower room in our visitor center. Quick item summary here is that resolution 2023-01 will amend the Sykesville reservation fee schedule for the pavilion rentals at Millard Cooper Park and South Branch Park, as well as the tower room rental rate at the visitor center. And I'll just hit a few high points here, and then I'll turn this over to Joe to get into the nitty-gritty of the actual fees. But as provided to us in our report, the town's current fee schedule for the rental of the pavilions in our parks is not consistent and causes confusion when residents and non-residents inquire. The proposed change will eliminate the difference between non-resident and resident rates and make the cost uniform from one park to another. The overall cost of a pavilion rental at Millard Cooper Park will increase, but this is necessary to offset some of the additional costs related to our recent installation and use of the splash pad. Specifically, the pavilions are being used more, which has increased the amount of trash that accumulates over the weekends at Millard Cooper, and we will need to start cleaning the bathrooms twice a week, which is also an increase to accommodate the increase in the park's popularity, which is a good thing, right? That's why we have the parks, so we're glad they're being used. The rates for the tower room at the visitor center is currently broken down between full day and half day, resident and non-resident, and also recently a nonprofit status was also added as a rental. Anyway, we've also been charging $75 cleaning fee for the rental of the tower room, and that is then refunded assuming the room has not been abused by the renter. This facility does not get used very often, and the complicated rental structure is simply not necessary, nor is the refundable cleaning fee. So, the proposed change will make all rentals a flat $150 fee for all facilities regardless of resident status or nonprofit status. Of course, there's a financial impact here. The new rental rates will have an estimated $3,000 to $5,000 increase in rental fees. These increases, again, as I just mentioned, will be offset by costs associated with cleaning and maintenance expenses. Any questions for staff?
I just want to give you a little bit of history on the differences between South Branch Park, if you didn't already know that, why it was higher. It was because we were trying to be in line with Howard County parks, since it is on Howard County side. That was the only rationale between that.
You can recall that as well.
I have two. I was just looking up the way to reserve a pavilion. Right now, it just seems like they have to call in to the town. Is there a way to go ahead and get the form? I'm assuming there's a form they have to fill out.
There is, and again, we usually send that to somebody the minute they inquire, or you can download it off of our website. So that would be updated.
That's what I was looking for. I couldn't.
I think it's under the form section.
Okay.
It might not be under parks. It's just
Gotcha.
just general forms.
Okay. And then the other question is, how do we monitor whether somebody's reserved it or paid for it? For example, as opposed to somebody just showing up on a Sunday and taking over the pavilion because it happens to be vacant.
Yeah, typically what we do is obviously we have a calendar that we keep here at Town Hall to make sure that we know which dates have been reserved and what hasn't been. Usually we let our Public Works Department know if a pavilion's been rented over the weekend so that it can be taken care of in advance of whatever that weekend is.
Okay, but then if it's open and somebody hasn't reserved it and somebody can just show up and
Correct,
utilize it without any sort of enforcement.
If there's been no reservation and no one's there using it, then anybody can use the pavilion.
Okay.
Okay, so the first comment though, Leo, is, Councilman Keenan, would be helpful for our updated new website, which will hopefully come out in the next quarter or so, and or early next year. Mid this year. Yeah. Dear Lord, it's already 2023. Anyway, so yeah, I think having a clickable, editable PDF is what you're looking for.
Yeah, because I just went on the forums tab, and the only ones are for the historic covered schoolhouse and for the police department.
Cool.
Right now.
What's the form called?
I thought it was pavilion rental form.
Okay, so that's helpful. Any other comments or concerns or questions for Joe? Okay, well then I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2023-01 as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Keenan. A second from everyone.
Second.
Council President Carter seconds the motion. The motion to approve Resolution 2023-01 as presented is on the table. Any need for further debate? Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor of Resolution 2023-01, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
And opposed.
The vote is 6-1. Resolution number 2023 still passes. Thank you. All right. That brings us to What's that?
I was just explaining, that's all.
Okay, usually we explain that publicly, but.
Well, I mean, I just think the town residents should have a little break, but I've talked to Joe about it, and there is some problems with it, so I understand.
Okay, very good, thank you. So our announcements and reports, I'll start with the announcement for the next meeting, which is Monday, January 23rd, 2023. And also note that we have volunteer opportunities available on the Historic District Commission and the Police Auxiliary Unit. Anyone interested in these volunteer opportunities, please email town@sykesville.net for more information. That brings us to staff updates, and I'll turn to Joe.
Only a few, just to bring everybody's attention to a lot of the markings that are going on Main Street, obviously for the I guess, the benefit of the public. That work will be starting in all likelihood in early February. I do want to draw attention to actually South Branch Park, is that the gravel area at South Branch Park is going to be used as part of the staging area, so a lot of the equipment and infrastructure that's going to be installed along Main Street is going to be stored down there. So again, we wanted to keep them on the gravel side because obviously we don't want anybody touching the nice new parking lot that Howard County just completed. And then on January 23rd, we will be introducing budget revision number 1. So again, I know we had the audit presentation tonight, so you're not going to get a break from finance or budget related items this month. And then lastly, we have confirmed with everyone that February 4th will be our strategic planning session. So again, we'll have a similar format to last year, so won't keep you guys too late.
So just like 6 hours?
6 or 8.
Okay, that's cool.
We'll see.
That's cool.
See
No,
how-
honestly,
see
like,
how the
it'll be at least
conversation
4, maybe 5, so we'll eat.
What time was the start today for that? 8 o'clock? Okay.
I haven't looked at the weather yet, so if it's obviously there's not a ice storm pending, we'll probably reschedule. So.
I can come pick you up in my Mini.
He's not looking at you.
Pretty funny.
Well
I
played,
think you told
President
me
Carter.
that last year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's one date on the gravel side. What was the dates again? I'm sorry, I missed it. For the construction?
Oh, mid-February.
Mid-February
is
sometime.
basically when they're going to start along Main Street, but the fences have already gone up at South Branch Park, so
Yeah, I
they're
saw.
going to start mobilizing down there.
Thanks.
Cool, thank you, Joe. That brings us to our public safety report. Chief, please, thank you.
Okay, we're going to cover the period December 5 through January 2nd. As you can see, it was a busy time frame for us. We have 895 total events. Some of the highlights are 24 assist other agency, 13 community policing, 35 foot patrols. So we're still out there doing the foot patrols even once the weather turned a little colder. 485 patrol checks and 59 traffic enforcement initiatives, again for a total of 895 events. During the same period, we had 9 incident reports, which were, I believe, in your packets, that I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about.
I don't have it.
Thank you, Councilman King.
I think I
Yeah,
just,
I asked some questions to Chief earlier. Thanks, Chief. Just on a couple of reports and stuff.
Okay, cool. How about you, Councilwoman Girl?
Yeah, I guess it's a bigger question. But it just seems like almost every other report we're getting something happening at 7618. And just kind of curious if we can do a deeper dive or a longer review of that. And just whether I know we've talked before, question trends in that area or that location. So.
You're speaking of 7618 Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
So the station?
Sorry, the station, yeah. And the parking lot, and it just seems like we now have an assault, we have,
Well, that one was a little different than.
I understand, I understand. I'm just saying, it seems like it's coming up a lot more than, and it could just be, I guess I'm wondering, is it, or does it just seem like it?
I really don't see any major trends there. I mean, we have had some issues there, but it's a busy place of business. I mean, they serve alcohol, but outside of these latest incidents, which were somewhat unusual,
right?
To say the least. Sean, I mean, are you aware of any major trends there?
Are you when the department is being called? Is it after a particular time normally, or random? maybe it's not fair to ask that question if you don't have a chance to research.
Yeah, I guess that's
I
what
mean-
my question is. Can we just look at it to see if,
I mean, we can certainly pull up all the reports for, just that particular address and see if there's any trends there, but none that I'm aware of. I mean, we've had a few, but not any more than I would expect from any business. I mean, probably some of the other restaurants in town have probably had the same amount of issues.
okay.
I
I guess
I could be
maybe
wrong.
switching, maybe switching from Baldwin's to the station, maybe it's different, and then maybe that might be what I'm, responding to or thinking about. I just don't remember.
I could do a
the-
deeper dive and then bring up just that address and see if there's any trends there, but it doesn't, none that come to me right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I would appreciate, but I also appreciate Councilman Guroff's comments as well, because whether or not it's a trend or it's just remarkable to us, I don't recall that address showing up in our police report, maybe at all, but maybe that's a memory issue for me, prior to the change in business model. So it's a concern, I think, that I share with Councilman Guroff. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different clientele, definitely.
And
Well, and I guess that's the question. I mean, I don't know if it's on the reports or whether it's,
well, the hours of operation have certainly changed, and the
Mhm,
length of
sure.
time that the bar is open has certainly changed, and with that comes opportunity.
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
There's live music there where it was never really there before,
Fair.
which people were partaking in the
Libations.
libations. Thank you, that's the exact right word I'm looking for.
Yep.
Longer than they were before, so.
Okay.
It might also be helpful to compare similar establishments somewhere else, maybe in the county. That might help
Sure.
with an understanding of perspective if we're seeing a lot or a little in our town. So I don't know if that's possible to do or not, but
We would have to
As
tap
like a
into
baseline.
the county's database for the calls for service at some of the restaurants in Aldersburg, but I mean.
Don't compare it to jail shacks, just.
Well, right. I mean,
Yeah, actually, really compare.
have you been there?
No, I've been in court for cases. And there was this one time specifically where a district court judge on a DUI case, as soon as she knew where the driver came, of course.
Wow. That's what.
well, we don't, we want to avoid that.
Yeah, we
Yep.
don't want that reputation.
Yep.
Right.
agreed.
Okay.
I'll take a closer look.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Anyone else for Chief? Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one last thing, that our Toys for Tots
Yes.
initiative went very well this year. I'm happy to say that we collected 2 large boxes of toys. Last year it was only 1. This year, 2 very large, I guess you may have seen it on our Facebook page, 2 large boxes of toys, which were happily delivered to many children that are in need. So hats off to Corporal Schlereth for spearheading the operation again this year, and to all our community that donated toys. So
There's some good community policing.
100%.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
All
Chief,
right.
I just have a request next year that you let us know in advance so we can advertise it for you.
I meant to say that at the meeting prior to, I guess, Christmas, and it slipped my mind, but I'll make sure I.
Well, you better get a third box then if you're going to do that.
Let's hope so.
All right.
Want to support you as much as we can.
Appreciate that. And thank you all for the tribute to law enforcement for wearing blue, all except for Joe. I'm colorblind, so I really can't tell.
That looks great from over here.
And we appreciate that. The support we get from you all collectively, as well as the community, is really what drives us to come to work every single day. So on behalf of the lieutenant and the rest of the officers, we appreciate it very much. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you. We
And
appreciate
you all look
you.
very nice. I appreciate you.
Next one, maybe red. I don't know. We'll come up with something. All right. That brings us to council committee reports. I'll open it up for anyone here at the table.
Sure. Just briefly with the downtown Sykesville connection, tying into the police toy drive, we did have the 2022 Happy-thon on December 18th here at the townhouse, which raised enough funds to serve 24 families and 68 children. I just want to thank everybody who volunteered to help out with that, and all the sponsors. We couldn't do it without all the sponsors who contributed, and for the town of Sykesville itself for allowing us to use the room here for the wrapping and the front porch for the event. It was very nice. And the 2023 event lineup is available on the landing page of downtownsykesville.com. Just some highlights. Pretty much everything's Saturdays this year. The Art and Wine Festival, May 6th. Fall Fun Festival, October 21st. Craft Beer, November 4th. And the Farmers Market again this year from May 21st to October 29th on Sundays.
Awesome.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I just wanted to apologize to the council and to the mayor for not being available December 22nd to do the holiday decorating contest. You had a tough task ahead of you, and I think you performed greatly. So.
Thank you. Yeah,
It was,
it's a fun challenge.
Yes, I just overbooked myself and just was not able to make it. So.
We had to outvote the mayor several times. It was really great.
Oh, sorry.
It was probably the
I'm
first
sorry
time.
I missed it.
I've never been so vetoed in my life. Okay, and maybe it's because I just have a kindness for the certain type of decorations that others do not.
Charlie
But-
Brown's?
Well, perhaps. Perhaps. Anyway, but no, it was fun. So, but you were missed. Thank you, Councilman Grassley.
There was a lot of competition was stiff.
Yeah, it really was. But we had some really excited winners. Like that was fun. The excited winners.
Yes.
Yeah. You were gonna speak there, sir.
Yeah, and since we're talking about that, probably my favorite winner was the little boy who came out and said, "I'm a dinosaur." It was awesome. Good. It was amazing. With that, there was no planning commission meeting on the 3rd of January. The next one's scheduled for the 6th. But I did have a couple of other things. And so one of them was, so at work, I'm working on an initiative to help with doing some things that are gender neutral. I was able to find an app that might be able to help us, or a few apps that might be able to help us. So I'll send them over to you, Joe. I didn't think about it before the meeting today. And then there is, and I'm not sure how to deal with this, but I've heard from a couple of citizens about a possible safety issue with the roadway in between on Oklahoma Avenue, in between 2nd and Norris, right over the hill crest. So there's street parking there. The road becomes single lane a lot of time, nighttime, dusk, dawn, tough times to see, and you can't always see the car coming over the hill, and they're driving on the quote-unquote wrong side of the road because of how street parking is there. And so I'm not sure if there's a way to do an assessment to see if there's actually a safety issue. I haven't seen anything in police reports saying that there's any accidents. People generally tend to be slow whenever we're driving, and courteous. So both of those things. But that said, there's also no sidewalks there. And so people can be out walking, they could be walking their pets. And so I don't know if there's a way to address, but I wanted to bring it up because there's a possible safety issue there.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Schofield.
I just want to announce that we didn't have an HDC meeting, Historic District Commission meeting in December. Our next one will be Wednesdays. We've changed our meetings to Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. So our next meeting is January 25th, 7 o'clock here at the Townhouse, and we do have available openings for anybody who's interested.
Yes, we need commissioners on the Historic District Commission.
Yes, and it is not hard work, I promise you.
Actually, I always enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've already pointed out I'm weird, so.
I want to make an announcement on behalf of, I guess Leo, Councilman Keenan might not know, but we have a new business that opened here on Main Street, Local Motive, I'm sorry, Local Motive.
Yeah.
It is in the former spot of Market Tavern.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been in there, it's really pleasing and nice and welcoming.
Cozy, comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. And good food and good drinks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, a new business on Main Street.
Well, and I mean, a couple more opened.
Well, not formally, like it's a soft opening situation.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But yeah, Charlie Joe's it's called. It's immediately adjacent to Samsar, where the Design of Mind was former location. And that was a really quiet, just opening type situation, I think, this past Saturday. So, the clothing store, and they're not even completely stocked yet. They just wanted to get their doors open because it's been a long time coming for them. So.
For that and Botanical. If you ever need a soothing environment, that's the best place to
No
go.
joke, yeah. Okay, anyone else with anything for the good?
The quarterly cable regulatory commission is coming up. If there's an issue that involves everyone, I mean, obviously I don't like, if something's affecting a community or a group of people, let me know. This is coming up this week.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, you
Motion
have
to
something to
adjourn.
complain about, that's your guy. And my bet was 7:50, but we're 3 minutes over, so I don't know who wins. Motion to adjourn, I think I heard from Councilman Grassley.
Second.
Second from Councilman Dyer, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? We are adjourned at 7:53. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, thanks.